there is a heavy stone we often carry in the hollow of our chests. It is the crushing weight of moral indebtedness, the quiet, lingering fear that if we do not constantly pour ourselves out for others, we are failing them. We give, and we say yes, because the alternative feels unbearable. To say no feels like a betrayal. It is to risk becoming the villain in someone else's story. But this relentless giving does not make us saints. It leaves us hollowed out, scraping the dry, cracked bottom of our own emotional reserves. Today, we sit together with this heavy truth, the guilt of saying no. It is a debt of kindness we never actually owed. Let us unlearn this survival reflex and discover the deep-rooted peace of reclaiming our own borders. Consider the lived experience of Wendy Litner. For years, Wendy walked through the world as a lifelong yes woman. She agreed to every request, every favor, and every social obligation, until she found herself walking on barren earth, with absolutely nothing left in the tank. At first, she thought this was simply who she was, a personality trait of endless, soft accommodation. But the soil of her life was completely depleted. The root of her exhaustion wasn't kindness, it was a profound lack of self-valuation. She realized she was placing the comfort, convenience, and approval of others far above her own breath, her own time, and her own needs. So, she embarked on a radical, one-month experiment. For 30 days, she decided to cultivate the word no. She started applying it to the heavy demands of her professional life. She turned down speaking on panels she had no genuine desire to attend. She firmly rejected requests for free labor that drained her precious time. But the experiment went deeper, weaving into the tactile, everyday marrow of her life. She even began saying no to food she disliked, breaking the lifelong, silent habit of swallowing down things that displeased her, just to remain agreeable in the eyes of others. By the end of the month, her pivot was undeniable. Wendy unearthed a grounding truth: being agreeable should never require us to carve away pieces of our own souls. Setting a boundary is not a jagged weapon, it is the subtle, earthy art of compassion. By building a sturdy fence around her own reserves, she could finally engage with the world from a place of abundance rather than depletion. She learned that no is an essential tool for self-preservation, not an act of unkindness. When we first begin to say no, the guilt we feel is not a sign that we have done something wrong. That guilt is simply the growing pain of unlearning a survival mechanism. As Paulo Coelho wisely wrote, when you say yes to others, make sure you are not saying no to yourself. We often think of boundaries as modern concepts, but history shows us the fierce, rooted power of stepping away. Let us look at Florence Nightingale. When she returned from the mud, disease, and blood of the Crimean War in 1857, she returned to a different kind of battlefield. Her wealthy Victorian family held suffocating social expectations. They demanded her presence at endless parlor gatherings, expecting her to fulfill the domestic, performative duties of a woman of her station. But Florence carried a massive, urgent mission in her heart: to reform healthcare on a global scale. The conflict between her societal duties and her life's calling was absolute. So, she made a startling, radical choice. Suffering from chronic Crimean fever, she retreated to her room and declared herself an invalid. For the next 40 years, she hardly left that bed. To the outside world, it looked like a tragic limitation. But in truth, it was a deliberate strategy. It was the only cloistering option available to a woman of her status to permanently bypass the draining, superficial obligations of society. From that single room, rooted in quiet seclusion, Florence entered her most remarkably productive era. she established the very foundation of professional nursing, creating the Nightingale Training School at St. Thomas Hospital. She authored over 200 books and reports, overhauling the health of the British Army and the design of hospitals worldwide. Her life teaches us a profound lesson about the architecture of our own limits. Florence discovered that physical confinement could become an anchor for immense power. By refusing to participate in the exhausting social dance, she forced the world to come to her. Her perceived limitation became a heavy, iron shield, guarding the vital energy required for her life's true work. When we build our own shields, people may not understand. They may judge our absence. But we must find what we call sovereign peace, the quiet domain where we rule our own energy without apology. Hear the timeless wisdom of Eleanor Roosevelt: do what you feel in your heart to be right, for you'll be criticized anyway. You'll be damned if you do, and damned if you don't. We must come to understand a deep and liberating truth: guilt is not the voice of your soul. The heavy, sinking feeling in your stomach when you decline a request is merely the echo of old conditioning. Your soul does not demand that you set yourself on fire to keep others warm. To move forward, we must protect our precious cognitive energy. Our minds are finite, beautiful landscapes, and every reluctant yes is a trespasser that tramples the soil. First, we can embrace the let them phenomenon. This is the grounded practice of releasing our grip on how others perceive us. If someone is disappointed by your no, let them be disappointed. If they misunderstand your need for rest, let them misunderstand. We cannot control the narratives others build around us. Let them have their feelings, while you hold firmly to your peace. Second, treat your energy like the sacred water of a deep well. Before you answer a request, pause. Ask yourself, does this draw water from my well, or does it replenish it? When we pause, we break the automatic reflex of people-pleasing and reclaim our right to exist simply for ourselves. Learning to say no is the first, heavy step on a long road back to ourselves. But as we unlearn the guilt, we must also learn the grace of how to deliver our boundaries to the world. We look back at the history of those who stood firm in their truth, and we build a bridge to our own present moments. How do we speak our truth without burning the bridges we wish to keep? How do we decline with a softness that protects our well-being, but still honors our compassionate nature? Visit our previous video about setting gentle boundaries. We explored the art of gentle no. We learned the quiet methods, and the peaceful frameworks to decline requests with both unyielding strength and warm grace. Join us there, as we continue to tend to the garden of our own peace.